Welp, I guess I'll be making another video today because CD Projekt out of the blue dropped an apology video from Marcin Iwiński, who is the co-founder of CD Projekt. As many of you know, CD Projekt has pissed off their community, they've pissed off media outlets, investors are preparing class action lawsuits, publishers like Sony pulled the game outright from the PlayStation Store, and more recently the Polish government has stated that they're looking into CD Projekt's activities in the lead-up to Cyberpunk 2077's launch and seeing how CD Projekt makes it up to customers before determining whether CD Projekt should be fined 10% of their annual income. So it's not been a pretty picture in terms of the situation CD Projekt is in right now. But while all that is happening, Marcin Iwiński did, in a video actually, provide some statements about the recent goings-ons and tried to explain himself and what happened with the console versions of the game. And I'd like to actually take a look at this with you guys and comment along the way. So let's actually go to the YouTube version of this video. I'm going to hit play and pause as we go along and let you guys know what I think. So here we go.
Hey everyone, my name is Marcin Iwiński and I'm the co-founder of CD Projekt. When I started CD Projekt 25 years ago, one of its founding principles was honest and direct communication with gamers. When CD Projekt Red, the game development part of CD Projekt, was born, it added something important to that principle, the ambition to make the best games in the world. It became our mission and something that guided us up until now.
See, that's what so many people trusted in, and that's why everything surrounding Cyberpunk hurts so much. A lot of it has to do with the dishonesty involved with this game in terms of how the review process was handled, how they kept saying it'll be out when it's ready, only for them to not live up to that promise. That's where a lot of the trust is lost. The fact that CD Projekt held themselves to a higher standard, in turn we did as well, except the launch of the game didn't fare much better than some of the really rough AAA game launches we've seen in the past. But anyway.
Based on that legacy of genuine and honest communication, you've trusted us and pre-ordered our game. And despite good reviews on PC, the console version of Cyberpunk 2077 did not meet the quality standard we wanted it to meet. I and the entire leadership team are deeply sorry for this, and this video is me publicly owning up to that. Please don't fault any of our teams for what happened. They all are incredibly talented and hardworking.
So I will say this is an aspect of the video that I do appreciate, the fact that he is, as a leader of CD Projekt, owning up to what happened, saying that it was leadership's fault, not the teams or the developers who've been getting so much flack from some of the internet crazies who've been sending death threats and the like. So Marcin kind of coming up front in front of the camera and saying this is all on me, on us, the leadership. That's a good thing and more than most other game companies would do in a situation like this. So at least that much is commendable.
Myself and the board are the final decision makers, and it was our call to release the game. Although, believe me, we never ever intended for anything like this to happen. I assure you that we'll do our best to regain your trust. Now I'd like to tell you how the situation looked like from the inside. Cyberpunk 2077 is huge in scope, and I'm not only talking about quests or things you see at first glance. I'm talking about a multitude of custom objects, interacting systems, and mechanics. In the game, everything is not stretched out over flat terrain where we can make things less taxing hardware-wise, but condensed in one big city and in a relatively loading-free environment. On its own, this is a challenge, but we made it even more difficult for ourselves by wanting to make the game look epic on PCs and then adjusting it to consoles, especially old gens.
So that's interesting. So I can appreciate the fact that a game like this isn't easy to make, and it would seem as though the method they took was, let's make the best game for PC and then try to downscale it where it can to fit the mold of what last-gen consoles are capable of. And it would seem as though that was a big mistake. And that is a clear indicator that I think the last-gen versions of the game, the console version of the game, should have just been delayed outright instead of them trying to rush it and cram it. But I don't want to dismiss the fact that the PC version of the game is also not ready for launch. It is true that the PC version of the game has been receiving more positive reviews and it's in a more acceptable state, but it's still not the standards that CD Projekt Red set for themselves. It isn't out when it's ready. It's not ready. Anyway, moving on.
That was our core assumption. And things did not look super difficult at first. We knew the hardware gap, yes, but ultimately, I think that time has proven that we've underestimated the task. To give a concrete example, and the main culprit, we had to constantly improve our in-game streaming system for all gen consoles. Streaming is responsible for feeding the engine with what you see on screen, as well as the game mechanics. And since the city is so packed and the disk bandwidth of all gens is what it is, it constantly challenged us. Every change and improvement needed to be tested, and as it turned out, our testing did not show a big part of the issues you experience while playing the game. As we got closer to the final release, we saw significant improvements each and every day, and we really believed we would deliver in the final Day Zero update.
So I can appreciate the fact that he is going to some of the technical details about the difficulties they faced with the last-gen console version of the game, and he says that he saw improvements every day and that they truly believed the game was ready for launch on consoles, and that in their testing everything seemed to be going okay. And my question is, how? Because even after the patches, it doesn't take very long playing the base PS4 or Xbox One version of the game to see that the issues are far too prevalent, that the game is nowhere near in the state that it should be to be ready for launch. The PC version, many would say, isn't ready for launch, but it's just that much worse on base consoles. It's hard for me to believe that leadership really had no idea that the game was in such a dire state on consoles. Marcin then proceeds to talk about how this affected the review process that they put in place.
Now let's talk about the review process. We started sending our PC review keys in the first days of December. On launch day, December 10th, we hit the ground running with a really good start on PC. While not perfect, it's a version of Cyberpunk we are very proud of. At the same time, we're fighting for quality on all gen consoles till the very last moment. And every extra day of us working on the Day Zero update brought visible improvement. This is why we started sending console review keys on the 8th of December, which was later than we originally planned.
So basically he's saying we didn't send out review copies earlier because they were working on the console versions until the very last minute, and they wanted to make sure that patch was ready, something along those lines. So the thing is, the shadiness behind the marketing and the review process extends beyond the base console version of the game. Even with the PC version, Marcin and the CD Projekt Red leadership team didn't allow reviewers to actually show footage of the game until December 9th. And December 9th is the day that the game launched in certain regions where the time zone made it so that it's December 10th for them. It was only on that day that footage could actually be dispensed, and that to me clearly indicates that CD Projekt knew about the rough state of the game and didn't want reviewers to show the technical issues that permeated the experience. Given the manipulation of the PC version, it's hard for me to not believe that not only did leadership know exactly the state of the console versions of the game, but that they actively went out of their way to try to hide the potential disastrous technical issues that plagued the title on those specific platforms. And the way they didn't allow reviewers to show their own gameplay footage until December 9th is something that's not addressed at all in this apology video, even though it's one of the biggest sticking points. This all also ties into another promise that CD Projekt made, that reviewers were going to get the game weeks in advance so they have ample time to check out all the nooks and crannies. But instead, reviewers got the game, the PC version of the game, a week beforehand, and were told that they were not allowed to show their own gameplay footage until December 9th. So that was also another unfortunate aspect. Marcin continues.
This all happened while working from home with all the challenges resulting from the COVID-related restrictions. A lot of the dynamics we normally take for granted got lost over video calls or email.
So this is something else that I can appreciate, the fact that developers have been working under unprecedented circumstances with the pandemic forcing them to hole up at home, and that really disrupts the development environment of a game. But all developers have had to face that, and there are developers that amidst these circumstances, they've still managed to release their game in an adequate state, and if they weren't able to, they delayed. I'm not saying CD Projekt didn't face challenges. What I'm saying is, I don't think CD Projekt properly adapted and adjusted the release dates and did what they should have done to ensure that developers weren't being crunched, to ensure they had enough time to finish what they need to finish, and to ensure the customers ultimately got a finished, polished product. Moving on.
And we took that hit too. Now I'd like to tell you about our plans for the future and present a path for Cyberpunk 2077 on consoles and PC. We have already released 3 hotfixes improving the game, but that's just the beginning. Our ultimate goal is to fix the bugs and crashes gamers are experiencing across platforms. Please expect bigger and smaller patches on a regular basis. The first update will be dropping within 10 days, and it will be followed by another, more significant one in the following weeks. We will, of course, continue to work on the game in future updates and improvements beyond that. Our big plans for supporting Cyberpunk in the long term did not change. As for the free DLCs, our initial plan was to deliver them just after the release, much like we did with The Witcher 3. We decided to focus on the most important fixes and updates first, and we'll be releasing the DLCs afterwards.
So let's pause here for a second and take a look at this. First of all, yes, 100% it is the correct thing to fix the game first before focusing on the extra content. And as expected, the DLCs and the next-gen update and the expansions, everything basically has been pushed back because fixing the game has now become the priority. And so we can see right here that patch 1.1 will come out soonish, within 10 days, according to Marcin, and then patch 1.2 will add additional fixes. And then here we have this entire time period of numerous updates and improvements. And sometime in the first third of 2021, we're going to start getting some of those free DLCs. We'll see what they're comprised of. CD Projekt did the exact same thing with Witcher 3, and the free DLCs were actually, they were bite-sized, but they were substantial, and they were something that many appreciated. Now, what's really going to hurt for many is the free next-gen console update being delayed to what looks to be fall of 2021. It was supposed to initially release sort of in the first half of 2021. That's no longer the case. So that definitely sucks for people who have been waiting for a version of the game that takes full advantage of the newer hardware. But I guess it does make sense when you think about it, given that at least the PS4 and Xbox One version of Cyberpunk run well enough on next-gen consoles, whereas on base consoles, that's where a lot of the performance issues and crashes are most prominent. And then I'm assuming it's starting 2022 when we're going to start seeing some of the major expansions, and maybe late 2022 or sometime in 2023 we'll see Cyberpunk launch its standalone multiplayer experience. That's what I'm predicting. So that's what we know about the current roadmap. Let's continue.
Expect more information in the upcoming months. For those of you playing on next-gen consoles in back compatibility, you can still expect the free next-gen update for Xbox Series consoles and PlayStation 5 arriving in 2021. We are aiming at the second half of the year. I'd like to end this video by assuring you that we treat this entire situation very seriously and are working hard to make it right. The guiding principles of our company are still core to what we do. We still want to make amazing games and have an open communication with you, our players. For now, our immediate focus is to work hard on making sure you enjoy Cyberpunk 2077 regardless of platform. Beyond Cyberpunk, we have many plans for the future, which we'll share more about when we're ready. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.
All right, so on one hand, I do appreciate the fact that there is an attempt at an open communication here, and it is a very open apology from someone who is a prominent member of leadership. So all that stuff is good, but I'm at a point where I'm beyond just listening to the words of a company and just trusting them. I definitely gave CD Projekt a special level of trust where if they said it's out when it's ready, I believe them fully. Obviously, that's no longer the case. What I care more about now is action. This is definitely a better apology than most companies would give, but I'm not going to pat them on the back for the best apology. What we ultimately need is the fixes to come for them to find ways to make it up to us after this disastrous launch. And the actions that they take to that end, that's what will define whether they redeem themselves after all of this. And I certainly wish them the best of luck on that front, because I've said this before, at the core of it all is a gem of a Cyberpunk experience. I had a blast with this game. I had a great time, despite the bugs constantly getting in the way of my experience, which is what's heartbreaking when I think about the fact that I still had a fantastic time with this game and just how much better it could have been had this game been given an extra year of development. Like, that's what kills me. And a lot of people do seem to share in this sentiment, you know, just looking at the likes to dislikes ratio. It's overall a very positive reception to this apology video and their commitment to do right by us. And, you know, a lot of people saying here that they're heartbroken for the developers, and people here commending the fact that a co-founder, someone within leadership, actually took the time to say it is our responsibility, not the developers and the teams. Leave them alone. People talking about how despite the game not being perfect and the bugs definitely getting in the way, they still love their experience of the title. And overall, people are wishing CD Projekt all the best in the hopes that they do redeem themselves, in the hopes that the game ends up becoming what it was meant to be. But at the end of it all, actions will speak louder than words. And ultimately, CD Projekt has a very long way to go before they earn back that goodwill and trust. But I guess this is a start. We'll see. But until then, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the apology video, what your take is on the overall state of things surrounding CD Projekt and Cyberpunk. Drop a comment, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.